Welcome to the 91 Day Business Spotlight Live. I'm your host, Jonathan Mast, and I am so excited today. Today, we've got with us Mary, and Mary's going to talk a little bit about her business, who she serves, and how she helps them. So, Mary, let me thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your patience. I know I was a few minutes late to get started here, so thank you so very much. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do and who you serve.
Yes, so I am Mary Stanley, and I am the founder of Courage Rising and One Flag, One Life. And what it is the Courage Rising is a faith-based organization to help
Mm,
first responders, law enforcement, fire departments, all those suffering from PTSD, post-war trauma, anxiety, depression. And the One Flag, One Life is the more scientific approach. And this was created due to my own struggles when I got out of the military. When we're in, all these things don't bother us because we're in that controlled environment.
hmm
And when we get out and we transition out, is when we start noticing these triggers. We start noticing all these things because you're taught how to turn on everything. So you're always on that constant state of alert. You're always knowing what's going on. You're never taught how to shut it off.
mm. That's interesting. I love that. Well, let me begin by saying thank you for your service. I'm grateful for that. That means a ton. Um, Talk to me a little bit about that transition. That you mentioned. You're really there to support them and the change that happens. As you step away from service in one aspect into real life or civilian life, whatever the right word for that is. Talk issues that you help those individuals deal with and what that process looks like, especially as a faith-based organization.
Well, one thing I've learned a lot of doing research and my own experience, this is a perfect timing because we're talking about Ash Wednesday, we're talking about confessions and
Hmm
things like that. And having that faith in that higher power and being able to confess that way helps you overcome it easier and faster. And by that, I mean, so when you're praying and you're talking about, you know, what's going on, what's on your heart, what's on your
hmm
body. When you have mental health issues, when it's PTSD, if it's depression, it's anxiety, that doesn't just affect your mind, that affects your body. From unknown illnesses, your immune system's always compromised, to pains in your body that can't be explained. Always getting sick, your rapid heart rates, your blood pressure's up there, sweats, not sleeping. All these things can be correlated with different parts of trauma. And the hard part is for people is that, especially us, in understanding this, is that a lot of times in the military, the trauma that you dealt with in the service is not the trauma that's your trigger or the trauma that issued it.
Interesting.
Most of us went through a traumatic childhood and we ran from that childhood to the military. It's was the easiest way to get away. You go to
hmm
college because it's paid for. You have at home, you have that stability that you didn't have growing up. And that's a good part of why a lot of people join the service. It's that better life that you can't afford to do on your own. So you're
Mm.
taking A and adding B to it, so it makes everything worse. And so with faith, when you sit there and you pray, you talk about what's going on in your head and your mind, it gives you that neutral third party to be able to just kind of look at things from a different perspective. And you start opening yourself up because praying's a like meditation.
Yeah.
And so you start getting those voices and those answers in your mind that you're looking for that you don't know you had. A lot
Mm.
of us don't have that patience to sit and journal, or we're not ready to dig deep ourselves into ourselves. And so doing that confession helps you do that in a way that is safe for you. Because a lot of people don't understand is that when you sit and go to talk therapy and you talk about these issues, the big part of why we don't talk about them is one, most civilians don't understand what we see. But
hmm
two, some severe events actually are more traumatizing to talk about them. And it's not important for us, the therapists, the coaches, the specialists, to know what that trigger is. It's only important for you to know what that issue is. So as long as
Mm.
you know what that problem is and you can help connect the dots, think of a tree.
Yeah.
So Mind is the branches and the leaves. Your body's the trunk, and what your body's going through is the roots. And you basically just connect the dots of, okay, my mind's doing all this. I'm racing. I can't stop. You know, this is what's going on as my mind's racing. And, I have the heart rate. I can't breathe. I can't think straight. And you start to understand, okay, this is what happened when this started happening. So you start to understand those triggers. And one of the biggest things when it comes to transition is that you went from a controlled environment. The easiest way to explain this is think about when you were 17, 18 years old. You moved out of mom and dad's house. No more restrictions, no more curfew, no more going to high school. You are
Hmm.
free. You're going to college. There is nothing that you technically really required to do. There's no one to force you to go to school every day. That's how it is. But I think of it in a 40, 50-year-old body.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
have no idea how to deal with all that. But then you add into the fact that every day of our lives, we are something bigger than ourselves. You are programmed, you are trained, you are taught that you are part of the United States Army. And it's a cool thing because it's only out of the population of the US, only 10% qualify to apply. Or no, I'm sorry. It's 10% of the population actually apply to join the army. Out of
Hmm.
that 10%, only 3% qualify. Out of that 3%, only 1.5 to 2% actually graduate boot camp, make it
Wow.
as a US soldier.
What an amazing stat. I was not aware of those numbers. I think that's really, really intriguing. I love how you work to help uncover that, though. Again, I've not been there. My son is former Army, so I certainly understand a bit from him, but I've not been there myself. And I just think it's so amazing to have an organization like Courage Rising where you can help people through that. Let me ask you, Mary, if somebody's out there and they're experiencing some of these things and they need somebody to talk to, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and or your team there at Courage Rising?
Call me. My phone number is 507-338-3725. When you It's easier to call me and or send me a text, and if I don't answer right away, I'll get right back to you, than it is to check an email, social media. I'm not always the best at checking all the other alternatives. So if you need help and you need it now, give me a call.
Thank you for that offer. That is so incredibly generous. And Mary and I just literally met after I told her I was going to be 10 minutes late for or 15 minutes late for our scheduled call as my schedule got messed up. And, it's not often that people resonate as quickly as Mary has with me. And I certainly have a soft spot in my heart for those that have served. I want to encourage anybody that's watching this live or on the replay. If you find yourself, if any of Mary's words resonate with you, please reach out to her, have that conversation with her and let her help guide you through that process, because we do value your service, whether that, regardless of where that's been, and resources like Mary provide such amazing value to help you deal with that transition and be able to be the best you can be as a civilian as well. So, Mary, thank you for that. I'm so grateful for you and for what you've done. We're going to go ahead and post this, and then I'll tag you, Mary. If you wouldn't mind, please feel free to share any of your relevant information there on that as well for people
I
to
will
get in
do that.
touch. I
And
would love to have people.
one
Please.
more thing, due to the overwhelming response to what I do, we have now opened it up for domestic abuse victims and child
Mm,
abuse victims. So we are a full service solution to many different issues.
I love that. Well, and again, trauma that needs to be dealt with, post traumatic stress, whatever that, and I don't know the term, so I don't mean to offend anybody if I'm using the wrong terms, but it's such a huge value. Um, Folks, I just want to share with you, I've always believed that if our sports heroes need coaches, if the Hollywood stars that we follow need coaches, and they all have them, we need coaches too. And Mary and what she's doing provide a great way for you to get a coach to help you work through the things that you need help with. And there's nothing wrong with needing that help. And I think, Mary, I just want to thank you for being available to help people in those situations. Because again, I think coaching is so incredibly important to help us and to expedite that process. Because, yeah, I know we can be tough and work through it on our own, but one, we may not get to where we need to be. And certainly we're not going to get there as quickly as we could if we have a coach like you working for us. So thank you.
Thank you. And we need that second party to help just talk to sometimes, just vent.
Absolutely.
I have a coach that helps me deal with what I deal with every day. And all my kids have coaches because, mom is never right.
Oh, yes, of course.
So they
Yeah.
have their own people that they work with on this along with me to help them.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, thank you for your time today. Thank you for your flexibility with my scheduling snafus. I appreciate that greatly. Again, I want to encourage you, if this is connected with you in any way, please reach out to Mary, have a conversation with her, and we'll get everything tagged and go from there. Mary, thank you again. So grateful for you. So grateful for your service, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you. It was an honor being here today.